Hi, this is Miss Cox, and today I'm going to help you walk through your first game, a Speed Racer game. So, hope you like cars. With that, first off, you need to make a new project. So I'm going to go to New, and I would call this something up here like Speed Racer. So the first thing we need to do is set the stage. Right now we have a cat. Let's first set the background. So first, over here, this is the current background. You can create a new background from an image, you could upload an image, you could take a picture, or you can paint one. We're going to go ahead and paint. And all you have to do is do some basic painting here to make a little racetrack. So I'll go with a dark green. I'm going to paint my screen a dark green and then make a black racetrack. Or maybe I'll make it brown. Let's see here. So instead of actually drawing a little line around, I'm actually going to create two circles. So the first circle, I'll make kind of big like that. And then I'm going to get my green color again. And I'll make another circle inside of this one. Let's see. I'm going to move it so it's kind of like that, and ba-bam, I've got a racetrack. You can change the colors of yours if you don't like mine, but I kind of like the brown and the green. So now we're ready to move on now that we have our background set. Now that we have our racetrack, we need a car, not a cat. So I'm going to click on the cat and right click on it and delete it. We don't need a cat. Okay, so now we need a car. We need to add a new sprite, and we'll choose an image from our library. So if I click here, there's a category actually called transportation, and oh, there's a car. I'm going to go ahead and choose the car that's in there. And now you'll notice there's one big problem with our car. Well, we can move it around. It's kind of huge. The racetrack is kind of tiny. So we need to make our car smaller. To do that, we have selected the sprite down here for the car. Now up here, we're going to go to costume. This is where we can edit the car's design. I'm going to select the outside of the car, like that. And I'm going to shrink the image by clicking and dragging from the corner. And let's see if that's small enough. If you click off of it, you'll see the size will change over here. That looks pretty good. Maybe it could go even a little smaller. So let me try making that smaller. And if that's something you're not happy with, remember you can always go to undo to make it bigger again. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little smaller again. Alright, but remember, don't click and drag from any point except for the corners because it will distort the image. Okay, now I've got my tiny little car, and I can move my tiny little car over to the racetrack, and that looks pretty good. Now we need to move on to the next step. So we can go back to scripts. Now here's where we get into the tricky stuff. Now there's many options up here. Motion, sensing, events. We're going to go with events for this first one. To move our car, let's first have it change direction depending on when arrow keys are pressed. So we'll drag this one, and instead of when the space key is pressed, we'll go when the right arrow is pressed. Then we'll have the car turn 15 degrees to the right. Okay. So if I click on that, it'll show the car turning. Now, that looks a little weird. Does anybody know why? Well, if you haven't figured it out, what's happening is the center of this object is actually kind of in the middle here. So I need to actually go back into the costume of my car, and there's this option here to set the center of the costume. And we want to set the center right here in the middle of the car. That way when it turns right in the middle of that car. Once you've done that, now if I click this, see how it turns more naturally? Okay, so that's good. What about left? So how about when the left arrow key is pressed, we'll have it turn left 15 degrees. So now, see, I'm testing it out. Here's the left arrow, here's the right arrow. And if I hold those, it'll spin around. Very fun. All right, make sure you've done this before you move on. So one of the things you probably have realized is the car doesn't actually move at this point. It's not much of a racing game if the car's not moving. So what I'm going to do is put this little flag event, which basically means when the flag is clicked, which basically is like, hey, when the game starts, what do you want to have happen? Well, I want the car to start moving. Specifically, I want it to move forward. But if I just do this, move 10 steps, it's just going to move forward once. So when I click that green flag, that's it. It'll move forward one spot. That's not good enough. I want it to keep moving forward, right? Because it's a car, it should be driving forward. So you need to go to this control option, and I could have it repeat 10 times to move 10 steps. And then you can see when I press play, and I'm going to move my car back, when I press the little green flag, it'll move forward a bit and then it stops. We really want it to keep doing that forever. So I'm going to grab this, goodbye, I'm going to bring in forever, and I'm going to move 10 steps. There we go. Now, when I play the game, ba-bam. Oh, my car hit the wall. Let me go grab my car again. Now I can also test out the arrow keys. So I can play, and oh, I can veer my car. Whoa, it's flying. Very exciting. I'm not very good at this racing game. Now, at this point, what's the problem? Hopefully you're thinking, the car's moving too fast. And maybe you want to be able to change the car's speed. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about variables within a game. So make sure you've gotten through this point, and then we'll move on to variables. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable. Variables are numbers that change and that you can change during a game. So first we need to set a variable. So here there's an option called data, and you'll see one of the options is to make a variable. We're going to call this variable speed. And we'll use this variable for all sprites right now. Right now we only have one sprite, so it doesn't really matter. But we'll go with all sprites. And let's click OK. Now we have some extra options here. The first thing is we need the speed to be set to a certain amount before the game actually starts. So when the flag is clicked, when the game is started, let's set the speed to, let's go with 4. So a manageable number, we'll say. And we'll say, instead of moving 10 steps, let's move the number of speed steps. So I'm going to drag this variable speed inside here. So instead of it saying move 10 steps, it's going to move forever at whatever the speed is set to. Now, we've said the speed is set to 4 originally. What that means is the speed is going to be 4, so it's going to keep moving 4 steps forward. Now, if you want to increase that, we could set an event that when, for example, when the up arrow is pressed, come on, there we go, when the up arrow is pressed, we could say that the speed, we could set the speed to a certain speed, or we can change the speed. We want to change the speed, so meaning we would want to increase the speed by 1. So anytime you press the up arrow, it's going to increase the speed by 1. And when you, let's do the same thing with the down arrow. When you press the down arrow, come on. When you press the down arrow, we'll set the speed by, instead of 1, we're going to have it be a negative. So here, we're going to put -1. Done. You just click off of it when you're done. Now, let's test it out. If I click on the flag, my car, if I actually, wow, look at that. So I've actually pressed the down arrow and the up arrow enough to basically set the speed to 0 at this point. Now I can redirect my car. I could put the speed up at 1, 2, 3, or reverse my car completely. But now this is becoming more of a racing game, since I can now actually control my car enough to get it around, kind of. So these are options. I'm going to stop my car for now. The beauty of this is you could do a lot of different things at this point. So I'm going to show you a couple of options in just a minute, but make sure you've got all these things working first. Our next challenge in this game is going to be to create a countdown at the beginning of the game to actually start the game. Before we do that, you may have noticed the speed variable is showing up here in the top of the screen. If you want to get rid of that, you uncheck the box here next to the variable and it will disappear. You might want that up there if, for example, you have a variable for score or points, but for speed, maybe we don't need that up in the top of the screen. Now, let's create a new sprite, and this time we're going to make this sprite from scratch. And basically, alright, I'm going to pick a color for the background. Let's go with green, maybe red. And basically I'm going to paint the background, and then you'll see, oops, all sorts of weirdness is going on. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a 3 on top of this, because I'm going to have a countdown. It's going to be 3, 2, 1, go. So let me make my 3 bigger here. And the question is that a big enough 3? That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So now I've got 3, and I'm going to create a new costume. So here, there's one costume. I'm going to create a new one. This time I'm going to go with a different color for the background, and I will go with a 2. And I will say this would be much more attractive if I was spending more time. You can always spend more time on this stuff to make a more attractive end product. And then the last one, it's going to be, we'll go with yellow because it's just about to be ready. And you can pick whatever coloring you like. This is just my thinking. Alright, so I've got my 3, 2, 1. Oh, my 1 got tiny. Okay, so now we just need to make this in, oh, you know what, let me get one more costume so it turns green when it's time to go. And I'll set the color here to black. Sure. I'll even make it bigger. And now it's time for programming. So now we need to go back over here to scripts. Okay, so what we're going to do is create another event that when and now you'll see everything has disappeared because this is just for this sprite. So when we click on the flag, we are going to have it switch to a costume. Well, actually, first we'll have it show up, then switch to costume 1, then we'll have it wait 1 second, then we'll have it switch to costume 2, and you'll see it will switch as it goes through, and then you can play it, and I'll show you the end code here. So at the end, after I have my code, now it will circle through or cycle through 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, go, and then it will hide that sprite. There are many more things you can do with this game. Play with it, have fun, and thanks for watching.